Water expert, Professor Anthony Turton, joining us now virtually. Prof, good afternoon. Just firstly, your overall impression of what you've gleaned from this report.
Good afternoon. Well, yes, it's a glass half full and a glass half empty kind of analysis. So let's start off with the good news. I think the good news is when Minister Mchunu came to power, he made a pledge that he's going to reinstate the blue and green drop reporting system, and he's done that. And he's done that even though it shows some very, very dismal performance. So I think that is something to be lauded. And under the new DG, Dr. Phillips, also they've implemented a number of measures. For me, the exciting thing is that corrective active action plans have actually been called for from 168 of the 346 non-compliant municipalities. So 168 of 346 that are non-compliant have in fact written or submitted correction action plans. So this to me is the department now starting to show leadership and starting to actually do something about turning the ship around. So while the numbers are still bad, at least there's an indication that there's something good happening there.
And those plans, does the report say those 168 plans are being implemented?
No. In some cases, there's been a call for the corrective plans, and there's been zero compliance in some cases. In other places, 168 of those have in fact come forward with plans. And of those that have come forward with plans, not all have implemented the plans. So there's a different sort of stage of implementation there. But the important thing is that the department is showing very strong leadership on this. I can just highlight in the context of the current crisis we're having now with cholera. To me, the worrying thing is that in terms of microbiological standards, a total of 50% are non-compliant. 50% are very, very poor to bad. When I say non-compliant, anything below 98% is non-compliant, but these are listed as poor to bad. So 50%, whereas the last time this was reported in 2013, it was 10%. So it's gone from 10% down to 50%. Now, this is a very worrying trend in terms of the current cholera outbreak and what have you. And then, of course, in terms of your blue drop, your drinking water system, 64% of the plant, 64% of all plants sampled in South Africa was non-compliant. So it's two-thirds of all of our bulk water providers are non-compliant in some way or other. So it's actually a very, very dire situation. But once again, the good news is, and this I think is a very, very nice little green shoot coming up here now, 11 directives have been issued for non-reporting. So in the past, when municipalities decided not to report, they just didn't care and they just didn't report and nothing happened. So you're now starting to get directives being issued against municipalities for non-compliance. And in fact, it has now become a legal mandate for those municipalities to inform their residents that they're non-compliant. So you could well see litigation coming forward now, where because the public will know which are non-compliant, and if they've not been informed by their local authority, then it would not surprise me that you're going to start seeing a wave of class action suits coming out of this thing.
So should
I just sort of raise. Yeah. Sorry. I just raise one more point before we go discussion, if I may. Water losses. Water losses used to be 35% in 2015, so that's overall unaccounted for water in the system. That has now got worse down to 50%. So we are losing half of the water that we put into the system. Back to you.
Okay, the directives, should we expect more accountability or consequences really from these directives? You say it's good that the department has now issued them. Is it about 11 of them?
Yes, well, I think that's a two-pronged thing. So the one side is from the department itself. They are now starting to demand accountability, which we must support and encourage. But on the other hand, now I'm aware of private litigation that is being considered in different parts of the country. So private litigators are now going to be encouraged by this, and they're going to say, well, if government has admitted that these are a problem and in fact passed the buck onto the local authorities, then it simply makes those local authorities more exposed, if you like, more likely to be sued in whatever capacity by private firms, by private entities, or by groups of people in terms of a class action suit. So that I think is good news as well. Just on the non-compliance, it's very interesting that there are 4 provinces that are completely non-compliant, completely, totally, utterly non-compliant. We're talking about the Free State, KZN, Limpopo, and Mpumalanga. They, in terms of wastewater treatment works, they are simply no corrective actions have been taken place, and they just simply are unable to comply with these standards.
Yeah, and from what we heard just a short while ago from Sean Phillips, the DG of Water and Sanitation, we played that clip. He was just clarifying that this report we're talking about, Prof, does not provide an indication of the current status of water quality in municipality. This is like for the previous year, 2021, 2022. I think it's an important point not to lose.
Yes, I fully agree. But the important thing is that what this report shows now is that warts and all, when Minister Mchunu came to power, he said he's going to reinstate these reports, and he's done that. And while we might still be unhappy with the numbers, and the numbers are bad, I think we must at least rally behind the minister and say thank you very much for what you've done, and the DG. I mean, this cannot be easy for these people, because they've got to face some very angry municipal officials and constituencies that are not necessarily happy about what's being reported here. So I think the important thing is, while the situation looks dire, there is definitely strong leadership being shown. And there's also, I think, strong leads now for litigation going forward. And it's my understanding that a lot of litigation is being considered from different parties at the moment, specifically around the cholera issue. And this is probably just going to feed into that sort of litigation channel.
Yeah, no, I'll take your view as objective. It's good to hear that while there are big problems with the quality of our water, the actions taken by the Minister, Senzo Mchunu, in his department, together with Sean Phillips, the DG, is in the right direction. Would you sort of support? He mentioned something in that briefing, that's Mr. Phillips. He mentioned the need to incentivize excellence as a way of enabling an improvement of quality. What are your thoughts about that, Prof?
Yes, I think in general, South Africa over the last 2.5 decades has kind of like pushed excellence into the background. We used to be a country that was highly competitive, and excellence was strived for. But then we became a sort of socialist democracy, and excellence was frowned upon because, if you stood out above the crowd, then you weren't part of the crowd. So I think the fact that this excellence is now being refocused on is good, because amongst all of that bad news, there is some good news there. I mean, while just take Blue Drop report, so this is drinking water, 5% of all municipalities are excellent. So those 5%, I think, deserve to be lifted out. I can't tell you which ones they are from the report here, but 5%, is excellent, and that's good news. They deserve to be really applauded. And I think what you're going to probably start seeing now is that around those areas of excellence, you're going to start seeing a slow restoration of trust. And of course, the important thing that I always talk about is investor confidence. We must never lose sight of the fact that ultimately we have to restore trust and confidence into investors to be willing to invest into creating jobs and continuing to grow the economy.
Thank you very much, Professor Anthony Turton, as usual. Pleasure to have you here today on ENCA. He's a water expert, just giving us some reaction to the summary findings of the latest blue, green and no drop watch reports, which had stopped being issued. But the new Minister of Water and Sanitation, or let's say the current Minister of Water and Sanitation, Senzo Mchunu, when he came in, he said he's going to restore these, and he's done so. So that is good, while, of course, there's a lot of challenges with the quality of our water. It looks like things are moving in the right direction.